So nice to see you all. I'm Dave Carter from Turner Classic Movies, and I have the pleasure of introducing you all to three of the cast members of this beautiful film. So I hope you'll help me welcome them. I see them. Please welcome Joel Edgerton. Hadley Robinson. And Callum Turner. Hey guys. So nice to see all of you. Good to see you. Congratulations on a beautiful film, which is twice, and I just love it. Joel, I want to ask you how you first connected with Ryan Heslov and George Clooney, and what your reaction was to taking on this very American role.
I've been watching George for years with admiration, and as a director with Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, what a film to come out of the gate with as a behind the camera endeavour. And then, a couple of years later, we had talked about another project about 5 or 6 years ago. Grant and George is incredibly charming. So I've been, admiring you as an actor for a long time. I really love to find a way of working with you on this thing, and I just thought he was being nice to me. He was being nice. But then that project, for all sorts of complicated reasons, didn't happen, and then years later, this came up, and I realised that he did mean it. And I had never heard of this story, one of these true stories that's almost unbelievably perfectly built in a way that, obviously it would make a great film. And the idea of playing a coach, which I always see coaches as fathers, sort of slightly unavailable. By the way, my father's birthday, and he saved my life at some point in my life, but he is less effusive than my mother, and by that I mean, fathers, you project this need to please them, or I do anyway, and I think coaches are the same. Some of the best coaches I see look supremely unhappy. So I want to do that. It's a real pleasure. I love it.
Callum, from your point of view, how much in the kind of early conversations with the people who were casting it and the filmmakers, how much did you have to explain to them that you were kind of already proficient at athletically, and how much was it but I can learn? You always hear actors saying, I can juggle, I can horseback ride, when they actually can't do any of it, and then they get to the set and
they speak French and Spanish and Russian all at once.
What was it like for you guys?
Well, the truth is, we didn't have to lie at all because none of us had any experience. And George and Grant, they gave us they basically just set us up to succeed. They set us up at Radley, which is the school which had all the best facilities in England. They gave us Terry O'Neill, who won gold at Atlanta, and it was like being part of a professional sports team. And we created this bond together that right now is unbreakable, and we really fell in love with each other.
Okay, was there at least a baseline? Were you all in decent shape, or at least you had to?
I just finished Masters of the Air. And my job in that was just to live and breathe as John Egan. And he was a very naughty boy and had an incredibly unhealthy diet. And I was definitely overweight when I got this part. And I fled to Mexico to just shed it and get on the erg and try and be as fit as possible. And it was really funny being part of this team because there's a competitiveness that we all have. And that competitiveness was the thing that drove us on. And we set this target of 46 strokes per minute, which is what the boys did in the actual boat to win in Berlin. And it was a long, arduous process to took 5 months, but the second last day of shooting, we managed to do it, and kind of like in the film where they're like, did we win? And no one's sure what happened. We were saying, did we get it? And we had, and it was a truly special feeling. I want to be for you.
I love it. Hadley, your charm just like jumps off the screen. It's like, it's outrageous and so fun to watch. The fact that this woman, we're seeing her, meeting her in 1936, almost 90 years ago, how did that impact how you approached Joyce and how you played her?
Yeah. So I guess it is the 30s, and apparently there were like social norms and stuff. So women acted a little differently back then, but also I kind of wanted to challenge that in a way, because I think women are women. If they want something, they go and get it. And why not make her that way? And also she's portrayed that way in the book. She has sort of this mischievous kind of quality about her, and she's scrappy, and she grew up in a household in this environment that was sort of austere and rigid, and her mother was deeply religious. And so I think she just felt so controlled her whole life. Then this ray of sunshine came along, and this guy who represents freedom, and she kind of leapt into that and never looked back.
Yeah, it's fun because she has this duality to her. She's innocent. Oh, you can't be in my dorm, and she's, kind of.
Yeah, she brought him.
Exactly, right. But then she's also spunky and, as we see, a bit forward, right? In a really kind of appropriate way. But you're saying that's from Daniel James Brown's book as well as Mark Smith's script, or did you get to really insert a lot of that?
I think I did insert a lot of it. I don't know. I made an assumption about her. I guess I inferred it a little, but I didn't really want her to just be on the sideline cheering and sort of going along with what was happening. I saw her as more proactive, and it's very clear that Jo is maybe more reserved and shy, and I thought it would be interesting to have her be sort of leading the way, and yeah.
Joel, if there's one thing that your character shares with Callum's, it's kind of like an economy of speech, right? I mean, they're both pretty terse. Is that a challenge to play? Is it fun sometimes to play? Because obviously you've done the opposite too with like hyperverbal characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's challenges either way. I think non-verbal, from it as an audience, as a viewer, I really love great non-verbal performances or characters that say little. Some of the greatest characters say the least amount of stuff, and but it is a challenge. I feel like sometimes when I work with an accent, that the more you say, the more of a rhythm you can get, and so sometimes when it comes to accent stuff, I find it more challenging when you've got less to say. But I just loved this sort of non-verbal kind of, it's not an angry man, just sort of like quite hard to read. And I really enjoy that, and I loved that, with very few words, there becomes this sort of almost intuitive connection. I think one of the most heartbreaking things for me when I watch the movie is, one thing is watching the camaraderie of men in a really tender way that I recall from being in sports teams. It creates a vulnerability with men, which I love to see on screen. But just hearing that Jo was someone abandoned at 13, like when you just cast your own life back to that age, how capable you would have been. And as an engine for a character, I think it's beautiful. And I think George built in this beautiful, intuitive sense between the two of us. In some way, like, what's going on with this guy? But it's all non-verbal for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Callum, obviously when you guys are sitting there and you see your actor playing your father through the window, I mean, just so much changes in you and the performance after that meeting. What was your way in to understand that relationship or lack of a relationship and how it really kind of drove Jo forward?
No, it's all in the book, really. I mean, he was abandoned by his dad when he was 4. He was sent across America to go live with his aunt. And at 8, his dad goes and works at a mining town, and his stepmother, Thula, makes him go live in the workhouse. And he has to wash up to keep to earn his keep. it's really an abusive relationship that he had with George, as a young boy. And it is that story, you know, when he comes home and he's 13 years old and comes home from school and the car's running and she's in the front and Dad's on the porch and he said, "Where are we going?" And his dad says, "We're going, you're staying." And, you know, the next day he made the decision to, you know, not let that moment define him. And honestly, I was just so inspired by him, you know, to make, like Joel says, to make that decision at 13 is something, you know.
That's amazing. Hadley, when all of the guys were doing like this intense training, and I can only imagine how hard it was, did you feel guilty? Were you like taunting them? I mean, had you already met them at that point? What was your process or reaction to all that?
Oh man, I mean, there was one night where everybody went bowling, and I was like, "Come on, let's go get a drink." And everybody was kind of like, "I don't think we can." And so I was like, whatever, I'll just drink for all of you. No, I'm kidding. But it was like everybody had like a very strict routine, it sounded like. And yeah, I felt a little guilty, honestly.
None of
But I
them
was-
felt guilty. We would row past George and he would have after we shot, we'd finish at 3 in the afternoon and he'd have a glass of wine and wave at us. I think Joel joined him a couple times. Yeah, so
I mean, Joel, obviously, I mean, we can all assume that just for the sake of camaraderie, you did every single bit of training that the young guys did.
We could assume that. It would be false. Look, you know, I'm Australian. I think the best thing that you could do is rather than pay yourself a compliment, you blow someone else's horn. If that is that an American expression too? Blow someone else's horn or trumpet. Watching these guys, you know, and I've been through it before in a movie where you have to arrive like 3 months early, put yourself through physical paces, learn a new skill, transform in some way. And I remember arriving thinking, all right, well, I'm older now, I just get to be the coach and wear a three-piece suit. But I get to watch these guys go through a process like that. And watching them take it on as a group, watching their relationships sort of forge through that vulnerability that I was talking about, helps the movie, but I just remember thinking what a pleasure for them that they get to go through the pain and all the benefits that come from that. And it was very impressive, you know, starting to watch them do entire takes in perfect unison, looking, from my perspective, every part of them looked like an Olympic rowing team. And of course, you know, saved on face replacement, you know, in post, and saved time and going overtime that they could get that done and do it in such an incredible way.
Okay, so what's the movie you're referring to where you had the most intense kind of...
Warrior. Tom Hardy and I, you know, arrived in Pittsburgh 3 months early and they threw us in a cage with a bunch of fighters and we're like, get it done. But it's similar, right? I just believe as actors, right, there are certain things that you could sort of somewhat fake or fudge quickly and pull the trick of something. And there are these kinds of things where, unless there's an incredible budget imposed to do face replacement and things like, you really have to put actors through the boot camp of it all. And,
and also, I don't think it would have looked as good, you know, if our faces were replaced. And, you know, being accepted by the rowing community was really important for us, you know, and to do an honour to them. And I think that because we actually did what you see on the screen, you feel it way more.
For sure. How many of the 8 guys in that boat are Brits?
I think about 4, 5.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we shot in England, so, you know, I guess it was easier to hire from there. Yeah, I just did Masters of the Air, and I think out of the 300 speaking parts, there's like 275 are Brits.
Wow.
was that shot in England as well?
I'm shot in England.
Hadley, what's your memory of like what happened when so many people from the cast and crew got COVID at the same time?
Oh,
And
wow.
George had to like stay in his hotel room and direct with it, you know, via the iPad.
That was the first day of shooting too. It was the first day and everybody fell. It was like every day there was somebody new. We were falling like flies. It was bad. But yeah, I don't think, George direct over Zoom? Is that what you did?
Yeah, he did over FaceTime. He had a bathrobe on and a cup of tea and very relaxed. And was sweating buckets.
To give you an example, there's a scene with Coach and his wife on the porch, you know, when she drops her nightgown.
Oh, yeah.
I shot that scene on my own.
Meet Clooney.
She was down.
Wow.
He played both parts.
That's how good I am. See, you know, we had the location and the wide shot of the porch, and I'd arrived. I think George was down that day. I arrived and saw the first day there, and I'm like, "Where's George?" He said, "He's not here." So he's got COVID. And you know the rules, right? Can't tell anyone. So it's like, "I can't tell you." And I was like, "So he's got COVID." It's like, blink once if he has. Couldn't milk it from him at all. Anyway, obviously he was not there. So maybe he had COVID. And the actress, my wife wasn't there, and we're like, "Well, we're going to shoot it anyway. But we'll just shoot certain angles." And you know, there was this real pressure not to fall behind. So we shot a portion of the scene that we could, knowing that we would then get her side on a stage somewhere. And that happened for a couple of weeks. Incredibly, they didn't fall behind. And you know, obviously refigured the schedule, so those of us that weren't sick were shooting stuff from later in the schedule.
Oh my God.
So it's incredible, you know, like speaking to the themes of the film, you know, adversity or any kind of obstacles get in your way. Human beings together are incredible at galvanizing and getting over those obstacles. And I think that, you know, this story is a really great reminder of how we can all get the best out of ourselves when we think we're at the bottom of the barrel. And certainly on a film level, I love watching filmmakers be resourceful under circumstances like that.
Yeah, I mean, you blow my mind. I love that scene where she says, like, "I'll give you a view," or something. Like, that's just adorable. And the chemistry is palpable between the two of you.
Between me and me.
Callum, here's a burning question that I had, Callum, when I was watching this movie, and like, you know, there's all the shots of you guys doing like all the crazy sit-ups, and when you're basically trying out for the team. I'm thinking to myself, like, what if they had to do that take, you know, 15 times in a row, but make it seem like you're doing those sit-ups and push-ups for the first time? Like, given the fact that none of us can do, maybe you can, but none of us can do sit-ups all day long, did they limit the amount of times that they shot that, or give you a break so that you can still look good doing all the
You don't have to worry about us, Dave. We're fine. George is just really so prepared. We normally do max on any scene 3 takes per setup, so we moved quick, and every day we wrapped at 3 p.m. latest. Kind of ruined the filming experience for me in the future, because if people finish on time, you know, what we've been doing all day. But he would send us out to row after, and he was editing in his head too as we went along, so it was really precise, and I learned a lot from the experience.
Wow. It's like Clint Eastwood. Just get it done, do it a couple times, and you're done. Hadley, did you have any opportunity to interact with anyone who was like a descendant of anyone involved in this movie, or is the book kind of so rich in its detail? I mean, people love this book. Was that kind of that and Mark Smith's script basically all you needed?
Yeah, no, I didn't get the chance to meet anybody. I don't know about you guys, but I want to at some point. That'd be really beautiful. But yeah, the book is just absolutely stunning. And I know so many people who just are obsessed with this book, and they're like, "Oh, it's being made into a film. It's going to be stunning just because it's on the page." It's in every little detail and anecdote, even about Joyce and Joe's relationship, like how he proposed to her, for instance. They always used to go to this meadow, and he would find 4-leaf clovers because he was very lucky, and he would bring them to her. And one day he brought her to the meadow and sat her down, and he went to go look for 4-leaf clovers, and she was basking in the sun. And then he went to her, and he opened his hand, and it was a little golden ring with a diamond in it. And little beautiful moments like that, where it really feeds into the character and how you build the character, and you kind of get to understand the relationship better. And it's just crazy to think, wow, that happened. This is a true story. It's just remarkable.
Do we know how long they were married for?
I think till death parted them.
64 years or something like that.
64, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Crazy.
Joel, my understanding from George is that, like, I don't think anyone really had an idea of how challenging it was going to be to shoot actually on the water. What were some of the things that made that difficult? Was it just like, was it a temperature thing? What were the issues there?
Look, George jokes that he must be done because he'd been through perfect storm and he should have known better. But look, it's just that story that's so wonderful that needed to be made into a movie, and George was a big sports fan. He was going to do it despite it. He was just so well prepared. I mean, the challenges of shooting boat to boat are really difficult. Obviously, the boats are moving and resetting things. It just takes a lot of extra time. But the other challenge I think they found, still from sitting side by side with George and listening to him talk about these challenges, is building a methodology to shoot that each race had its own momentum, that started wider and started to compress and become more dynamic and have a greater cadence as we built towards the end of the film. And that shooting close was not really an option because of the length of the oars and the length of the boats. So building these boats with cranes that could get in close and using long lenses. And as a performer, I will say that, for Jimmy Woke, who Jimmy played, wonderful guy who plays the other coach, is being shot on long lenses without the ego getting involved, knowing the lens is right here and how's my face going to look and what should I do. It's just behaving on that river whenever action and cut was there, knowing that somewhere some camera was maybe going to capture you at a long lens. Took a lot of the ego of performance away, and I think it's a really nice thing for me. Anyway, thinking into the future, it's probably a nice way to cover certain things of actors because you get quite relaxed moments of authenticity.
Well, and the editing on this movie is stupendous. I mean, the racing scenes are just, when I watched it the second time, I paid special attention. It's crazy. All of the different things that they're cutting back to, like the close-ups of different parts of the boat, your faces, you back listening to it back in the radio. I mean, all of the, hoping that they're going to win. It's just, it's masterful to see.
And that last sequence has 600 cuts altogether, 9-minute sequence, and he says that Gravity has 450 in total in the whole movie.
Now someone's going to go back and count.
Well, I want
148.
I want someone, what if someone were to count, like, once you say, or once the coxswain says, all right, 36. Like, if we were to watch that footage, would it actually be 36 strokes per minute?
That's one
And I have a feeling the answer is probably yes. Okay, before I let you all go, let me ask you one last question for all of you to answer. Finish this sentence. Callum, I'll start with you. Compared to what I expected he would be like, George Clooney was a lot more...
We got no pranks. So,
well behaved.
Well behaved. I know, I was disappointed too.
Hadley, how would you answer that? He was much more what?
He's got a goofy spirit about him, and he's fun. He's just like, maybe goofy, I don't know. But that, I don't want to say goofy, maybe silly, is that better? Yeah.
Joel, same question.
I was going to say childish. Look, for all the wonderful things he can do with the craft of what he does, and his understanding of performance, which really helps us in a really kind of shorthand way, he was just fun to be around. I hate how charismatic he is. There was a day on set, my mum, like a lot of people love George Clooney. When am I going to get to talk to George? She was in Australia, so she wasn't going to be here face-to-face, but one day she FaceTimed me, and George, because he's awesome and has a great memory, he remembered my mother's name, and I just handed the phone to George, and he answered it. So my mum, you gotta remember it's like morning time in London, it's 6 p.m. in Sydney, already with a glass of Chardonnay, on the couch with her hair all like this, expecting to talk to me. And Joyce was like, Marianne. I was like, oh, I don't know.
Now, okay, so did you get praised for making that happen, or did you get yelled at for not giving her a warning and then her hair was?
Yeah, it was a bit of both. Definitely a bit of both.
He's the best. No, he really is the best.
He is so charming, man. Bottle that, sell it. I don't know how he does it.
I don't know either, but he also makes a great film. And you guys did a great job. Callum, Hadley, Joel.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your night.